So why this version of Christianity spread? Historically, the theology was very useful to empires, slaveholders, feudal systems, colonizers, authoritarian institutions. Oh, the Council of Nicaea in the 4th century when they they only accepted 4 of the 21 gospels. Oh, right, because it was the rise of imperialism that that Jesus, without a wife, like let's forget that he was a rabbi and had a wife and a lineage, want to take him for the Gentiles, create an imperial Europe, nation states, right? It teaches, accept your position now, you will be rewarded later. It stabilizes unequal power structures. Unequal power structures, that's what Karl Marx has been complaining about. That's what everyone's complaining about. So, whether we want to call it communism or democratic socialism or a victim mindset, everyone's complaining about Christianity. Like, let's just accept it, and deal with the problem. Manifest destiny, killing the buffalo, all the keystone species that revive the ecology, that create climate resistance through preventing flooding, drought, and wildfires, as well as storing tons of carbon in the earth and the trees. And I mean, we destroyed our own environment and then you don't want to look backwards and see why it happened so we could fix the problem. If we don't go back and fix the problem, how can we move forward? We're just blind bats flying, can't see because we haven't taken accountability for our wrongdoing. So important. This is not all Christianity. Okay, that's fine. Some Christians teach that kingdom of God is within you, heaven begins now, but there is a lot that it teaches there. And so then I looked up, well, which psychologists supported this, that Christianity teaches a victim mindset. And, Carl Jung, and he's all over my book. So Jung argued that projecting God entirely outside the self weakens psychological integration because he knew that the soul projects through the heart onto reality. And then that's how we see ourselves. So we acknowledge that reality is a projection and that comes from the self. Then we hold the self accountable to that projection. So if my projection sees a lot of selfishness and crime and, well, then maybe I need to change myself. So what I attract into my worldview, my sight, my perception is more aligned with love, compassion, and enlightenment. Let's talk about why does someone project a worldview with fear, guilt, and shame? Well, that comes from their childhood. When a child experiences an overwhelming amount of fear, guilt, and shame, their nervous system is calibrated with those emotions because that's what they experience most of the time. Healthy childhoods calibrate a child's nervous system for like love, compassion, and enlightenment. So adults that complain, engage in a lot of fearful, shameful, guilt-ridden conversations, where they're shaming others, shaming themselves, that's because they came from a traumatic childhood. They're not mentally healthy. Right? I'm going to share in a second a woman who is not mentally healthy, and she uses she's Christian and uses a lot of fear, guilt, and shame to control people. But let's get back to this, and I'll get right into that one. People who lack inner authority become dependent on institutions. Well, that's what the Christian church wanted. They wanted people, it's like they institutionalized femininity, where you go to the church for forgiveness and compassion, which is a right brain activity. Then you pay money, so they have these top tier men can pay money for forgiveness, and they don't have to go to their wives. Femininity is being repressed because they don't let women speak in the church. What? You see what I'm saying? Religious submission can replace individuation. Well, we now know that individuation is a healthy and normal process for a healthy child. And when we don't individuate, and I can pull up a quote from Dr. Gabor Mate on this, then that's the problem, is that we do not individuate. Spiritual maturity requires encountering the divine within. So, he warned that a purely external God produces psychological infantilism, produces psychological children. who can't think for themselves, make decisions, draw healthy boundaries, because everything that's important exists outside of themselves. And so, they're just there. You're in control. You're in control. I don't have any authority here. No authority, no authority. When people don't have authority over themselves, how can you bring out the best in them? How can they bring out self-belief and self-confidence? But a nation state that wants to be super controlling doesn't want that. Okay? Everyone behave, control,